So next step is, you see all this gunk that's been building up in here for years. Old nasty. Before we put it back together, we want to clean this thing up really nice and re-lube the whole thing so that it, you know, works properly. You should probably lube your winches about once a year if you do a lot of sailing, which I do. So brake clean can go a long way, but start out by doing that, spraying her down. Now we'll take the bearings off first. As you can see this. Brake clean goes a long way. I'm just trying to be careful because I don't want to get it on the screen of my GoPro because that would not be good. So I'm actually going to take it outside here and do it over here real quick. Okay, so I got it cleaned up pretty nicely. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some 800 grit and just where the bearings are at, I'm just going to lightly polish around it because just get off any rough stuff. You don't want to go too hard because you're not trying to change the surface much, but you just any rough junk, any buildup that's been on there, get that cleaned off nice. And we're not going to lube these, we're not going to grease these up until we put them back together. We're not going to put them back together until it's actually mounted up in the boat because you need to get to all your tops for your screws, so, or your bolts I should say. But nice little polish. Anything light, you know, you don't want to do anything heavy because you're not trying to score up this this nice piece here. So. Let's see that. You still have black marks, but it's, as far as smoothness, it's there now that I got it polished up. So, you know, and you're gonna clean it. There's always gonna be some inherent gunk buildup. I mean, if you want to go crazy, you could sit there for as long as you want and get it clean. But just try to get off some of the heavy stuff, and you know, when you re-grease it, it's all gonna go into place as it is. So. Alright, now it's time to clean up the mounting surface here. All kinds of old sealant and dirt and junk. So we're gonna clean it out with a scraper and some 400 grit and just lightly clean it up. So. Alright, so now we've got it all nice and cleaned up, and the next step is to figure out how our mounting holes are going to go. You can see, it's a shame because they were Lamar's that were on here already, but they're old and they're off just a little bit. So I have to decide if I want to. You see here, there's one, and you get like this one's off, and then the other ones are off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to locate the hardest to get to on the inside one, which is this back corner. This one I'm going to locate, and then I'm going to proceed to cockeye the whole winch just a little bit so I can drill some fresh holes. And what's nice about this Bristol here is that you have down in these holes between here and the base is this glass is almost an inch thick, which again with these new production of yachts you will not get anything like that. And actually those backing plates I'm building are kind of overkill, but it's all right, you know, because overkill is good, especially better to overbuild it than underbuild it. That's what I always say. So next step is I'm gonna be drilling these out. Well, here's the part where you can either do your choice. You can either take your template and you can mark out all the holes, or you can do like I do, because I'm used to doing this all the time, where I feel pretty confident, is I like to put the winch right where it is. I put a locating screw in the back to make sure it stays stable, and I'm going to just drill a little bit of pilot holes on each of these and then remove it. Try to do your best to center them in each hole. Try to see if we get all the bolts cut through. Hopefully we did a good job, and they will. Usually they're a little off, you'll have to open them up just a little bit here and there, but let's see. Boom, 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 and Boom, look at that. So half the battle done right there. Now I'm gonna go underneath and make sure that they're all coming through correctly. So you can see here. Nice distance. This might even be a little long, but again, we still have to put our whole backing plate on. So you see that. And there you go. Okay, so now next part is we have to put this sealant on, and we're going to fill in all the old unused holes, and we're just going to spread a nice line around to protect it from any water getting in there. So if you ever used 5200, you know that this is an adhesive sealer, and when you put something on with this, you want to make sure you don't need to take it off again, because this stuff is very strong, and that's the whole point of it. You know, it's adhesive, so you need to make sure you have everything right before you put your stuff down, because taking it back off after it dries is a nightmare. So there we go. So first one in. Try to get it lined up when we set it down. I'll do another one over here. Next one. Nice mush down. You see I missed around here. That's alright though. So we're gonna clean it off with sealant afterwards. Now we got that. So here's all my hardware. Nice big flat washers. The lock washer, and then some nice 7/16 nuts. So we're going to go ahead and install the plate underneath, and then we're going to put all these on and tighten them up, and that's about that. So we'll get that done. Right, now our last step is to tighten up the bolts. So take a big number 3 Phillips, put it on there, take your ratchet, go below, just tighten her up. All the way tight at first. You just want to get it snug, and then you're going to go in a star pattern around and completely snug it up. I need a longer socket because some of these nuts are hanging out more, so I'm going to go grab that. That you have it mounted now, your new winch is officially in place. So next step, we'll clean up all this 5200 here with some solvent, and then grease this bad boy up, put her back together. This thin X I'm using here, use pretty much any solvent. This is my favorite for getting 5200 off though. This stuff is by far my favorite for taking it off. Just make short work of it. So if it's regular sealant, you can just let it dry and then cut it off with a razor blade, but being that it's 5200, this is what nightmares are made of. Nice and clean. Alright. Next step, grease and reassembly. Alright, next important step we got is grease. So I'm using this this is a grease for like a furler unit, but solid waterproof marine grease. Any type of marine grease that's waterproof is going to be just fine for your winches. They do make specialty stuff and all that, but you don't always have to get caught up in that. As long as some nice waterproof grease, you're gonna be just fine. So, start out doing a nice bit all over. Same thing, rub it all in. This is after you've cleaned it too. So I've already cleaned this. I showed you before with some regular car brake clean. Works great. So that, and then install the drum. So I'm gonna get these greasy gloves off. I've already put some grease inside the drum here. Put a little more. And we take it, slide it right down on top. So you can take a winch handle. I know she's not back together yet. Where the hell my winch handle? There we go. Take a winch handle. Attach it. And work it all through. Get all that grease in there. Greased up nice. Alright, so that's about that. Now, it's an important part coming up here, and this is the placement. The placement of the tailer and where you want the tailer to be. Generally, you want your tailer to come, you want it to tail back into the boat, so let's see here. So if I installed it like that, it would be 2 wraps and around 1 wrap, so it's going to be popping out on the back side of the tail here. So I think I want it a little more in, more like that. Actually, I could even go do it like there. Let's see. So we generally want the line to exit into the cockpit. So actually, you'd have to. So you line up this little black piece here. You can see that wherever you want it to be, and that locates the tail marker. So they'll pop together. So now, do 2 wraps on my line. It's going to come up around here, and it's going to dump back into the cockpit, which is how you want. So that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to do my next step and put my 2 little half moons in. Install the half moons here. Pop it down. Half moon. And then we take our last piece and install this over top. So hopefully this should all lay down nice. Flush, so we just take our tool here, tighten her back up. That's the right one. Right one. Never want to force these together. This should go together very easily. So if it doesn't, you know you have an issue. Have it. Your old boat now has self-tailing winches. Hopefully this was kind of helpful. I know the wind noise is probably going to be an issue with this, but that's basically it though. You know, this is how you can upgrade these nice old boats to have performance like new ones. So